us here on Control TV. We're looking at very pertinent issues that affects our country and the people who live here within. I am Gimbo Umar, and this is Front Row Politics. We're being joined by Debo Adeniran. Of course, a lot of you would have known him by now. He is an anti-corruption crusader. I like to call him as that. But he is indeed the chairman, Center for Anti-Corruption and Open Leadership, CACOL. I want to thank you so much indeed for joining us, sir. Now, the issue of Emefiele will easily, whip up sentiments, as it were, for a lot of Nigerians. So on the issue of Emefiele, this is where we are now. We have gotten Emefiele to a point where he is now free on, quote, his lawyers got him a bail. So he's now free. Haven't met the bail conditions, Debo. But the issues are better appreciated when you look at the genesis of the Emefiele policies and where that has landed the country today at this time in Nigeria. First was the speed at which the naira was devalued. If you remember in 2015, when they just got into administration, that's the President Muhammad Buhari administration, the dollar to the naira was 197 to 198, depending on where you're getting it for the black market rate. But today is 1,200 to 1,300. It fluctuates in the black markets against the dollar. But the new administration under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu said, no, we're not taking this anymore. And sweeping reforms came in immediately. Cardoso was put in as the of the CBN boss. And then we also had those monetary policies before, prior to that, we had these monetary policies that Emefiele embarked on. And this administration decided to investigate it. Now, the good thing is that the report of that investigation is out. I'm sure that you must have gone through it, but I've gone through it extensively, Debo. Yeah. And the investigator started with a definitive statement wherein he said, the issue of which I believe the federal government should press charges right away are as follows: Naira currency redesign. Let's start with that, Debo. As the first charge case that the investigator brought up, he said that Emefiele should be charged for currency redesign, which hadn't been done in accordance to the statute establishing the Central Bank of Nigeria, which gives it between 5 to 7 years, or is it 5 to 8 years now? These policies, they keep changing, before the Naira can be redesigned. Did Emefiele commit any infringement?
Thank you very much. To answer your question straight away, he has committed more than infringement. He has committed a crime that has led to loss of life and businesses in Nigeria. And that is why many Nigerians will not want Emefiele to go scot-free. But then we cannot discuss the issue of Emefiele phenomenon without peeping into his ascendancy to the topmost post at the Central Bank of Nigeria. You know that his predecessor left under a controversial circumstances. The predecessor, Sanusi, actually made a number of revelations, which some powerful people in government of Goodluck Jonathan didn't really like. And because many of them have stuffed their war chest, they ensured that Emefiele was reappointed by the Buhari administration. I believe that was to protect the youth and to protect their well-kept secrets. And now that a new sheriff has come to town, a number of revelations has come up stage. You remember that Emefiele never wanted the election that brought in Bola Tinubu to go as smoothly as it went.
What actions
He
did he take?
actually
What
wanted,
actions did he take to suggest as such?
yeah, there are so many actions that he took before he came to the level of changing the color of naira. Remember, he wanted to become the president. He actually obtained from to contest for the president of
Yes,
the
he ran for.
country.
Yeah, absolutely.
He, he actually wanted to run for the primary, but he was not allowed. He actually went to court to assert a right that he didn't have. He thought that money could buy anything, and that was the time he challenged anybody that wanted to fight him to come up stage to come and fight him, thinking that he could use money to buy everybody and buy every institution that could stop him. And remember also that he had bought about 2,000 brand new Sienna vehicles and branded them in his name, with which he wanted to launch the campaign before he was eventually stopped.
Absolutely.
These were some of the prelude events towards truncating that transition program. Now, having lost out at the level of contesting for the president of the country, he now decided to sabotage everything completely. So somehow he knew that if people do not or did not have access to naira, they will have developed some kind of apathy for the ruling party. That was the APC. And nobody will want to vote anybody that came on that platform. So it was first and foremost the Naira redesigning was an emergency thing that started in August. I mean, the whole process started in August and was fast tracked to ensure that it came before the election so that everybody will have been pitched against the ruling party so that any candidate of that party could not win because there won't be naira to actually pay those who are to even supervise the elections. People in the country will be they will harbor resentment towards the government, and they will not even want to participate in the electoral process so that
But Debo,
everything might
if I may
collapse.
just butt in, Debo, what he said
Yes,
were the reasons. He gave reasons for the redesigning of the naira, which he said were one, to curb inflation; number two, payment of ransom to kidnappers. Those were very, very critical. Do you not agree that he took a step in the right direction, even though it was
it was
very close to the
it
election?
was a step in the right direction taken at the wrong time. Before then, of course, a lot of kidnapping had been going on. And as a matter of fact, when the naira colors were changed, the kidnappers started demanding for the new naira notes. So he couldn't have curbed the payment of ransom. And as a matter of fact, the implementation of the new naira notes or the new naira notes couldn't have come earlier than the election. So a lot of things were put in the on the way of the smooth running of the election. So basically, it was meant to sabotage the electoral process because he wanted to play the game of a dog in the manger. Because he couldn't compete, he should thwart the whole effect. I mean, so let us just leave that. It was the redesigning or the recoloring of the naira was done in bad faith. It was a selfish agenda to achieve an end that will protect the atrocities that Emefiele and his co-travelers had committed, knowing that
Talking
he
about
knew.
his call. I'm sorry. Talking about his call. That report also mentioned names that should also face
Yes,
charge one. Charge one in that report. His names like Tunde Sabiu, that the former president, I think his nephew, we understand. Aisha Ahmed, Mr. Adiola
yes,
Adetunji, Mr. Uh, Fola Shonubi. That's the
Shonubi,
assistant,
yeah.
yeah, Shonubi, of course, the assistant governor of the central bank, and 13 others. Debo, be honest with me. Do you think that this report is tenable? Can it be contested?
Is very credible because the investigators actually cited, instances where raw cash were moved from the covers of the central bank to other destinations. It was caught on CCTV. And when names are mentioned, these names have not been able to come out to dispute what Jim Obaze, mentioned in his report. Then when you look at the influence of Tunde Sabiu in that government and the amount of resources he had been able to amass within the short period of time that he served the former president, you wonder how a Richard Kassela could amass such humongous amounts of money or resources to acquire so much property that is valued at several billions of naira within that very short period. It means that he's doing more than what met the eye. Then, when you look at the memo raised by the director of currency, that was supervised by Mr. Fola Sotunbi,
Shonubi.
who was the operations, the deputy governor of central bank operations. The speed with which the memo was raised and approved, and the excuse that that Emefiele gave, that it was when he went to on one occasion when he went to see the president, that he met Tunde Sabiu, who advised him to redesign the naira. Okay, and
Emefiele should know that Sabio is not an advisor on monetary policy
exactly,
or anything like that.
exactly, exactly. So the contradiction is even that he was advised by Sabiu. It was now Umar. What's his name? The director of currency that raised the memo. Now, Emefiele got instruction from Sabiu. Did he submit the instruction to the director of currency and was approved by the deputy governor operations? All of these things don't add. When the path they ought to have told, the due process, prescribed that the management of the central bank and the board of directors ought to be in the know of it. They are supposed to debate it instead of the committee of governors that are also co-travelers in the same criminal enterprise. They are the one who decided for the management of the central bank and the board of governors. And the president, of course, was only deceived into into just tolerating them. Not that he approved of it, he tolerated them. And what they told the president they were going to do was to redesign it with new security features, which include QR codes and some other water margin and the rest of them that will make it difficult for anybody to produce counterfeited, copies of the currency. But they didn't do all that because they are so much in a hurry. The president instructed them that if they have to reprint the naira, they should do it with the local contractors, Nigeria Security and Printing Corporation. They didn't do that because they knew what they are gunning for. They awarded it to a UK firm who didn't even mind the procedure that they should follow to take contract from Nigerian institution through the
Did
procurement.
they take that from the Nigerian, from the CBN, or did they take it from Emefiele?
They took it from Emefiele, actually. Well, Emefiele was representing the CBN, and those foreign firms knew what procedure they have to go through before they accept, such contracts from Nigerian institutions. They also didn't follow those procedures, meaning that all of them are working hands in gloves to commit the crime against Nigerian people. Now, that the whole thing, the whole cat has been let out of the bag, I believe that Emefiele needs to spend his time behind the walls.
Okay, if you say Emefiele should spend time in jail, I'm not sure, because the process is still on. He still has to can still go to court to challenge all these accusations against him.
That is what we wish, because we are Nigerians. We believe that if corrupt leaders are not adequately punished and they are not given deterrent punishment, they will encourage others. The reason why
But has Emefiele done anything that has brought about the devaluation of the naira against the dollar?
In fact, every policy that he had implemented had actually led to the devaluation of the naira. Okay, because the financial policy of the central bank, look at even the anchor borrowers thing, it was only channels to sources, to users, to end users that are not traceable. Most of all of those who came out that, oh, they have planted rice, they have harvested rice, and rice is going to be cheaper, were not given that opportunity to actually make profit over their own enterprise. Then several other things like the foreign exchange policies, which actually, that's what the former CBN governor Mohammed Sanusi actually exposed, that the easiest way to make billionaires out of anybody was to engage in forex trading. You will only take it from the central bank, and that's what we believe that Emefiele was doing. Take foreign currency from the central bank and get to Saboyaba or any prominent place, sell it at a huge profit.
Do you believe that
to...
Emefiele? Do you believe that? Maybe I'm not sure, but do you believe that Emefiele facilitated the establishment of CBDs and the Bureau de Change, and gave it to his cohorts?
Not that he facilitated it, but he made it easy for those who want to engage in black market racketeering to access foreign exchange. Okay, and making it easy for them to access it also makes it easy for them to sell by the roadside, not controlled bureau de change institutions. So basically, the central bank under Emefiele actually helped in sabotaging the procedure, the procedures that could have led to the protection of foreign exchange that should go directly to those who really need it for genuine imports and trading. But most of the times, the money is not, foreign currency is not available to those who need it. It is only available to those who want to sell it as a huge profit by the roadside, just like the so-called new currency too. The new currency, the recolored currency, is not also available in various banks, even when they claim that it will be made available. You could only get it, with those who go to parties, who do the selling of the new naira notes at parties or by the roadside when you travel to major cities and towns in the country. So it means that the money, both forex and local currency, were hoarded for those who are able to access the black market procedure to collect this money from the central bank and resell to the Nigerian people. And that is why some people believe that those who operated POS had, a kind of a back door through which they access currency from various banks that are participating in the criminal enterprise, so that they will be able to make huge profits in exchange for the hard-earned money that they have kept in the bank. And another criminal aspect of it is that those who wanted to do genuine businesses, those who wanted to attend to some financial needs, could not access their money in various banks because Emefiele asked us to deposit what we had in our hands so that they will exchange it for new naira notes. We deposited them. They claim they have burnt those that we deposited, but they didn't give us new naira notes. So a lot of people wanted to pay for medical care, could not pay. Many of them lost their
But Debo,
lives.
you also agree, agree to an extent that at least Nigeria is tending towards an e-economy. That is why he even started the e-naira. And this all goes to support
No,
his
it is not.
actions. That raw cash should be decirculated in the system. And then we begin to use the POSs, the transfers, the bank interbank transactions that way. Has it not bettered the lot of our people today? For instance, when you think about maybe some 2 years back when this case of kidnapping was just at its peak and we had to pay cash to these criminals. But today it's a much saner, much neater system.
Well, the truth is that the e-transaction mode of commerce in Nigeria cannot work wholesale. There's no way we will still not use raw cash in our economy based on the fact that the needed infrastructures and facilities that will make it smooth sail are not yet available everywhere. And there are so many Nigerians that are yet to be fully educated on how to use the available platforms to transact businesses. It doesn't matter what anybody says. Nigerians are still basically underserved when it comes to internet facilities and other related um, uh, 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 I mean, other related facilities that will make it easier to transact, based on the fact that we are really we have a population that has about 70% being illiterate. We 70% of us are actually living in rural areas where electricity and internet facilities are not available. Many of us, when we go to our towns and villages, we find it difficult to use the internet. And if we base every transaction on the use of internet, even not even the what do you call it now? The QS, the other platform that you don't even need the internet. If even at that level, you still need, internet service providers to provide you with airtime that you will need to transfer business at that level. Then the average user will still need basic education on the use of their devices to be able to transfer business at that level successfully. So basically, Nigeria is not yet a United States of America. Nigeria is not yet that enlightened to the extent that you say, okay, pack all the cash away and let people use internet and their what do you call it, phone to transfer business. That cannot work. A lot of Nigerian businesses, they go to rural areas, they buy products from rural areas to bring to town. And these people at the rural areas will not sell based on internet transactions. Many of them have also been defrauded, through the same platform that we are canvassing Nigerians to transit to. And because of this, the level of trust, in such transaction has been lowered. So a lot of
Okay.
people,
Debo,
yes,
that point has clearly been made, but there are other charges really, and there are just so many of them. Um,
okay,
one of which is still under the first charge, that the CBN system is compromised, and the acting CBN governor at the time was covering up for a five uh, saves that you used to save money that were in Emefiele's office at the time. They were found to have been replaced in his office in the investigations interface. If you go through those investigations, the report itself, it said that the real safes in Emefiele's office may have been removed with their content. This is really implicative and really suggestive that even after Emefiele was uh, in the uh, in the coffers of the DSS and investigations were still going on, the deputy governor who was sitting in for the governor, in the person of Mr. Fola Shodun,
yeah.
he is now culpable for interfering with a crime scene, as it were. What do you make of that? How does that now tally now that Emefiele is out of jail? I mean, he's out of the coffers of the DSS, or even out of prison for that matter, and has gained his freedom, albeit because his lawyer was able to pay bail. How does that add up
You see,
now? How complex? How complex is the situation going to
I
get?
have what I said earlier was that there's a ring of criminal elements, that surround this Emefiele phenomenon. It is not just Emefiele because he couldn't have been able to act alone. He has a lot of conspirators. Some of them are the names that you have mentioned, including some sitting ministers, some former ministers, and even some present government officials have been mentioned. Okay, special assistant to the president has been mentioned. So, not to talk of the committee of governors of the central bank. All of them have been performing the role that is expected of the board of the central bank and the management of the bank without letting the president into their their own plans and the manifestation of it. The president, just being a gentleman,
Not getting
delegated
you mean
power.
not getting approval from the president?
They didn't get approval from the former president. He was just being gentlemanly, that when he delegated powers, he should allow those he delegated to act out the instruction, not knowing that they went beyond his expectation to turn the opportunity that he gave them to a tool for criminality. And that was what manifested in the cover up that happened both when Emefiele was in the office and when he had been arrested by the DSS and transferred to EFCC, all of them. all of that period was enough for his lieutenants in the enterprise, in the criminal enterprise, to try to cover the track of their criminality. And that could have been the time when they were able, they tried to obliterate, what could constitute evidence against them. And even some of the witnesses could have been induced not to give evidence against them. But then the investigators seems to know his onions. He had moved faster than them. And that might be the reason why confessions are being extracted from all of those and many of those that are involved. And I believe with time, more confessions and exposures will still be achieved by the investigators. I know that EFCC, under the present chairman, will also not leave any stone unturned, because he had also made it open, made it public, that he will sacrifice his all to ensure that corruption is brought down to his knees. And this is an
Okay.
opportunity for him to prove that right.
Absolutely. This is one big fry. When you talk about corruption cases, that's a matter of fact, it's monumental. But I mean, Emefiele still has the chance to contest these things in court. But Debo, do you think that Emefiele was heavily protected by the Buhari administration, and why?
Well, he was heavily protected, but not by.
Perhaps the most protected individual. Some people tell me that he is the most protected individual. I mean, having contested for, gotten a ticket to want to contest for president, in which he ought to have resigned from his office, he did not resign, and nothing happened. And he was very boisterous and boastful about it. That anybody who is ready to fight him should come and meet him at the CBN Towers, and it goes on and on and on. Do you think that Emefiele was overtly protected by the Buhari administration, and why?
I think Emefiele was a victim of egotism, thinking that having a deep pocket, albeit corruptly, will save him, that he could buy every individual that could expose his atrocities, or any institutions that will want to, try him for any offense. I'm thinking that
Where did he get the money
the
from to buy a new one?
the it could have, of course, how much 593 accounts. He created it without letting the government, letting the president know, without knowledge of the Nigerian law. You know that trillions of naira. I don't know if we are still going to get into the nitty-gritty of his offenses through ways and means and the rest of conduit pipe through which money flew into private pockets. So he got the money through all of these dealings. And I've told you about Forex, kind of racketeering, okay, that Emefiele could have manipulated to get into the hands of his personal agents, who will sell on his behalf, gave him returns towards getting him enough arsenals to prosecute his political agenda. Now, a Buhari presidency was more or less permissive. I don't know whether I should be apologetic about that, because he believed in delegation of authority, and he trusted them. I mean, those aides, those his lieutenants that he delegated powers to act in good faith. There's no doubt that a Buhari wouldn't have an hand in perpetrating such monumental corruption. He wouldn't have wanted to give them a leeway to operate without check. But the governmental system in Nigeria has not been functioning. First, the National Assembly has a committee on the central bank that should oversight the functioning of the central bank. What did they do to nip the criminality in the board? The
But it was
ICPC.
shrouded. How could they have known? Because I mean, though they have to go and do their oversight functions, a lot of things were shrouded in secrecy in the
They
CBN,
will
as it
no,
is with the NNPCL now.
no. The truth is that they have books that could be examined by the committee. Then ICPC has what is called Act 2, Anti-Corruption and Transparency Unit, that could have had a desk in the central bank to examine the books from time to time, with a view to detecting any corruptive tendency, anything that could turn out to be corruption that does not follow due process. If ICPC had maintained that desk at the central bank and ensured that every transaction goes through the due process, all of these things could have been nipped in the bud. So the protection that he had is the laxity in the way the government institutions worked when he had sway at the central bank. There is no close supervision by the agents of the president, by the institutions that are saddled with the task of oversighting the functioning of MDAs, and by the there is FRC, that is Federal, Financial Regulatory Commission of Nigeria, that is supposed to regulate the way the inflow and outflow of legal tender, maybe of money and any financial document in Nigeria. The institutions were weak. And that was what Obama said the other time, that Nigeria doesn't need strong men. What Nigeria needs is strong institution. If the institution has been working, Act 2 could have detected the faults that is inherent in this transaction that led to the redesigning the Naira, that it didn't follow the due process. There is a procedure for any procurement by any MDA in this country. If those procedures were strictly followed, it will be very difficult for anybody to create any accounts. And don't forget that we also have TSA, Treasury Single Accounts. If that has also been made to work, then no fund will have moved from one institution to another without TSA knowing. So
How then do we explain, Debo, my apologies, how then do we explain how the depletion of the foreign reserves happened just getting towards the elections? What happened? Was Emefiele looking the other way? Where did those dollars go to?
You see, the truth is that, like, it is still part of what I was saying, that institutions in Nigeria, that is oversighting institutions, have not been functioning optimally the way we expected them to function. Otherwise, no single individual will have been able to amass as much wealth as Emefiele has expended during his bid to contest for presidency, because the institution should know his take-home pay and his allowances. All donations that gets into the country is supposed to pass through SCUMOL, okay? That is Special Control Unit Against Money Laundering, that is domiciled with the EFCC. If that has worked, the donations will have been known to the law of Nigeria, and no individual will have been able to access such funds without being questioned. But then money rules in most cases in this country. And that is what we are appealing to the new administration to curb, so that at the end of the day, Nigerians will be able to be proud of their own country, that the government institutions are working in a way that will protect the mass of the people. Because the way things were should not be the way we should continue. The laxity had been so much. Buhari was a very strict person. Buhari was somebody that wouldn't want anything to tarnish his name. But he's working with a gang, a kind of cabal that take things, below his below the bridge of his nose. They didn't allow him. They didn't tell him the whole truth, and he didn't have any way of knowing, because everybody is working hands in gloves with the criminal ring. You could see the Tunde, what is the Tunde what? Who supposed to be Buhari's nephew, who is working in trust for Buhari. Look at the way he was said to have used his position to manipulate the presidency and, of course, incite some criminal element within the central bank to do things that is detrimental to the socio-economic development of Nigerians, or even of Nigeria itself, because our rating has always been depleted by all of this kind of corruption that has manifested from all of these transactions. So Buhari had these people around him. He had no way of stopping them, because many of them were nominees of either political hierarchy, or some of his relatives, some of
And
those he
those
trusted.
kind of scenarios always play out. But Debo, there is a second charge and there's also a third charge. As a matter of fact, there is fourth and a fifth charge, as reported by Jim Obaze in his very damning report against the CBN and Emefiele himself. But charge two, let me bring you to charge two: fraudulent use of ways and means, which you mentioned earlier. Of course, what that means, it allows the CBN to grant temporary loan to the federal government to balance its budget for the year, pay back at the end of the financial year. Now, this was not used again, but the previous administration, before, I think it was Goodluck Jonathan who stopped that, and then somehow it crept back into the Buhari administration, and it was being perpetrated and was used as a tool to try to get the budget to be sustainable or to fund the budget better. Did Emefiele and the Minister for Finance at the time, Zainab Ahmed, did they commit grave infringements against by bringing back that Ways and Means protocol?
Of course, they committed crimes against Nigerian people, crimes against humanity, actually, because all these way and means are to be applied for, are to be approved even by the National Assembly before it is released. Okay, and these are they are just using the way and means as a conduit to siphon money to private pockets, because there wasn't any time during those periods that that ways and means have been applied for, and what they have channeled through that.
Debo, you seem to be freezing at the moment from where you are. I don't know if you can hear me clearly, but there seems to be a freeze from your end. We've been talking to Debo Adeniran, the chairman, Center for Anti-Corruption and Open Leadership, CACO. He's joining us from downtown Lagos here in Nigeria, looking at Emefiele's sins against Nigeria, talking about the redesigning of the Naira. Emefiele, we know right now, has been freed on bail. What implication is that to the process of his investigation? A panel has come up with its own investigation by Jim Obaze. My apologies. By Jim Obaze. And some of the revelations here are so damning to suggest that getting
Sorry for the
the justice
interruption.
for the Nigerian people will be one big task that this administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu will have to follow on very closely. Thank you for coming back. I know that the networks can be very troubling today. It's Christmas period, so everyone is on. So let's continue at the point where you were.
Yeah. I was talking about the Minister of Finance and other, government officials that are culpable in the criminal enterprise. Of course, the truth is that all of them, they knew what was happening, and it's either they kept criminal silence, or that they are compromised, or they are direct beneficiary of the sleaze. So, and that is why we are saying that everybody should be investigated, including those who should perform their oversight functions that they didn't perform it, or they pretended that they didn't know. Then institutions that were not strengthened to perform their constitutional duties should also be examined, whether it was deliberate or it is unavoidable for them to ignore some of the roles that they are supposed to play in controlling the inflow and outflow of money from the central bank, and to follow up the money from the source of release to the final destination. There is this unwritten principle of indestructibility of money. If all the institutions are working, that is possible. But then, because of the way Nigeria system is functioning, a lot of things are deliberately compromised. And that is why everybody that is in charge, as a matter of fact, I will not be surprised if they have embarrassed the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, in this heinous crime, because he is the chief accounting officer of the federation. And if such evils are being perpetrated under his own administration, then he should be held accountable. That he said he didn't want to give evidence should not hold water. He no longer had that immunity, even if at the level of coming to court to say that I didn't give such instruction. That would be enough to nail those who have perpetrated the haste. If he doesn't do that, he should give evidence that there was no instruction to Tunde Shuaibu, or what is, I'm sorry about that name.
Sabiu, yes, Sabiu.
If he could confirm that he didn't give that instruction to Tunde, he didn't give it to the deputy governor of central bank operations, he didn't give it to the then minister of finance, and he didn't apply for ways and means during that period, then that will give opportunity, an easy ride for the prosecutors to get conviction on time, so that government will not waste time and money on seeking for further evidence. That will have been enough to indict the elements that are involved in the criminal ring.
Now, there's also a third charge, Debo. Increase in allowances of board members of CBN without approval by President Buhari or the Revenue Allocation Commission. This is what they did. They increased their salaries against the dollar. That means in dollar terms, not necessarily their salaries, but their sittings, some other extra codes that come with it, with the job allowances, as it were. Is the CBN printing money to serve these purposes?
You see, when somebody or an institution is constituted by those who work in those who are working against the established procedures, anything can happen. And anything could have happened within the CBN during the period that Emefiele had sway at the helm of affairs in that place. It is criminal generally for any government agent, any political appointee to earn anything after outside the recommendation of Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission. If anybody earns anything outside that recommendation, he has stolen the money. He deemed to have stolen the money and should be prosecuted for it. And that is what we even said about the National Assembly, that are legislating so much allowances for themselves outside to the recommendation of Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Commission. So,
what then can you say? What then can you say about the special purpose vehicles that were established sometimes in 2015? The CBN governor at the time was specific about this NESI Stabilization Strategy Limited for the disbursement of power sector stabilization funds, but that came to a total of 10 million at the time, or 10 million naira, which was split into 1 naira per share. And the CBN governor, again, in his own wisdom, bought 99% of that. I think we understand that the other 1% went to Mudashiru Yusuf, and then later to Philip Yila, which is 1%, which is 100 ordinary shares at that time. Does the CBN governor have the what do you call it now? Is he permissible as such to buy on behalf of the CBN? And should CBN own 99% of what ought to have gone public?
Exactly. You see, I have said that everything is criminal enterprise. SPV itself was established to siphon money from government covers, and that is why anybody
really?
that is in
I thought it was established to help governments build capacity and build finances.
It wasn't established according to the procedure laid down by government. And several times it has been said that government has no business in business. Why are they establishing a new company that is not NFPC, that is not, you see, it is a way by which all of these people who knew that the institutions, who knew the deficiency in the government institutions and exploited it. They are exploiting the fact that the institutions in Nigeria are weak. So it is not, in fact, the SPV, even if it is legal, shouldn't have distributed its shares the way it was done. There are regular procedures, and it has been spelled out by the law on how to do it. But then, why is it that it's only between a few people in government? It is not known to the National Assembly. It is not known to the executive. And the National Assembly, those who should supervise all of these enterprise, the what do you call it now? The ICPC itself, had a role to play. I wouldn't know if they are playing any role now because they have not been invited into the present cases. They are supposed to be the one to stop the establishment of SPV in the first instance. Remember when there was an argument between the politicians, those who are contesting for presidency in those days, it was mentioned that a former vice president actually used SPV as a vehicle to move resources from government covers to private covers. This is the function of SPV, special purpose vehicle, that is being used by those who believe that they have to exploit the opportunity they have to exploit the Nigerian people. And that is why the majority of Nigerians are made to be poorer, because what should accrue to everybody has been cornered by a few who now become so rich that they buy even the law courts. And that is why many of them are still walking this road, the streets free. But I believe with time, all of them, one by one, will be. You know what is happening to Madweke now?
Do you think this administration is up to the task to have this report by this report that we just had from Mr. Obaze? Do you think this administration has capacity, the wherewithal, call it, if there is a will, there's a way? Do you think they will get
Yes.
through with this and do the necessary investigations to fruition and then reprimand who should be reprimanded? Of all the officers that you've mentioned, those that were in the CBN, not only Emefiele, because you said that he couldn't have operated himself, and then those lawmakers who were supposed to do their oversight functions and perhaps either failed to do it or looked the other way or were also caught in the same fry.
Well, I believe that what the administration requires is what he's been displaying. That is political will. So far, the Tinubu administration has demonstrated adequate political will to follow up the case to the letter. All of this exposure couldn't have reached us if it were to be some other administration. Now, it is left at our own behest to determine what to do with the report. When I say we, I mean the media and the civil society organization. The investigative journalism should also come into it, so that when they come up with further information about what could have led to this, and those who have participated, we in the civil society organization, we pick it from there and follow it up with necessary institutions and individuals that has a role to play. We will push them to play those roles. So we are the ones to help the government to even trample where their predecessors failed to tread. We will help them to ensure that nobody try to denigrate the effort of the government. If they cannot contribute to the fight against corruption, they should not sabotage the effort, the little effort they are putting into it. The way they have started, I believe that they have the political will. We only have to help them to sustain it. We have to help them to carry public will to support the effort that they are making. And the president has even said, has charged his commissioners and his appointees, that is either they perform according to the laid down procedure or they shipped out. And some of them are already moving out. And I believe more will still move out. And look at what happened in the aviation sector. That is a way to go. When you want to sanitize an organ stable, you don't have to respect your relationship, your anything with anybody around there. You everything about nepotism, about favoritism should be jettisoned, and that is being jettisoned as we speak. So if they are able to continue in that trend, then we believe that it is possible that they sanitize not only the CBN, they will start to sanitize all the corruptive institutions in Nigeria, especially those that are revenue generation institutions like NNPC, like
Okay.
all of them.
Okay, Debo. Okay, Debo,
Yeah.
that's a good place to let it rest. I most sincerely thank you for giving us the honors to have you here on Front Row Politics discussing the Emefiele, you called it the Emefiele phenomenon. We are looking at the report from Mr. Obaze, but Debo Adeniran is the chairman, Center for Anti-Corruption and Open Leadership, CACO. Many thanks indeed for talking to us. And to everyone
Thank
who's
you
been
for the
part of this,
opportunity.
join us again
Yeah,
same time. When we're doing this again, I'm Gimba Umar, and bye for now.
I appreciate it. Thanks.